You know, but
Rick
at some
Scott said
point,
that as
if
well.
you are delinquent and derelict in protecting
because you
people,
want to make a partisan point, and
no,
because
I don't want to make
Trump
a partisan
hates
point.
Gavin, really?
Jessica, will you?
The brilliant but beleaguered liberal Fox News commentator, Jessica Tarlov, spent the past 48 hours waging a one-woman crusade against MAGA lies and cruelty and hypocrisy, relentlessly fact-checking her four MAGA co-hosts, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video. I was actually gone for the past 48 hours. I was in Washington, D.C., and I missed Jessica Tarlov at her finest in two back-to-back episodes of The Five, doing her best to shut down the lies and hypocrisy and cruelty of MAGA as pertains to the Southern California wildfires. So we're going to play these clips. We're going to catch up on Tarlov's one-woman crusade and unpack it together.
The question now is whether Americans in other states should be paying the bill for their policy, which really ignored the fundamental prevention efforts,
especially if those policies aren't going to change.
Right.
Jessica, let's get your.
Yeah, so teeing it up here, you have Janine Waters and Dana Perino, two MAGA Republicans who are saying, maybe we shouldn't provide assistance to these blue states experiencing disasters and crises. You're citing these nebulous policies. They never point to specifics. It's just these policies, climate change, woke policies, DEI. Now, again, these two, Janine Pirro and Dana Perino, would be flipping the F out if a Democratic president or a Democratic legislator or groups of Democratic legislators threatened to do the same to a red state. Imagine, again, refusing to provide hurricane assistance to Florida because, well, Florida's government is Republican and they deny climate change, and climate change is objectively making hurricanes more frequent and more severe. So maybe you all should bend the knee and acknowledge climate change, publicly apologize for your decades of stupidity and dishonesty on the subject, prostrate yourselves before the Democratic Party, change your various energy policies and to be more renewable energy friendly. And then we will back disaster relief. But of course, Democrats, elected Democrats who are morally superior to elected Republicans, have never threatened to do such a thing. Jessica Tarlov will be making the point about the hypocrisy and about red states who need assistance, and really how red states also need the tax revenue generated by California, the fourth, fifth, or sixth largest economy in the world.
I hate that Governor Newsom had to create a new landing page on his site to put out the real facts about what the budgets have looked like, doubling the size of the air fleet. Forest management budget increased 10 times. I understand it got a little wordy about the San Ynez Reservoir, but the truth is that reservoir was offline through February 2025, no matter what. This wasn't an unpreparedness thing. There was a tear in the cover that they had to repair. It's a normal maintenance thing. So yes, would it have been better if it had been filled? Sure, but that's not because of mismanagement. That's maintenance that has to happen.
But the maintenance didn't happen in time.
But it was always. But it's not behind schedule. Is the point? This isn't because they neglected it.
There were also a number of. Make time is of the essence in this contract. If they don't have that reservoir, that involved the Palisades.
I totally understand.
And so it's like saying we're not going to have cops where we know there's going to be a crime.
Well, you don't know that there's going to be a crime. This fire was predicted 5 days out, not months out when it went offline.
We've been hearing about.
So again, you see how Dana Perino's like, well, time is of the essence. Well, wait a minute. There's no evidence that this repair, this regularly scheduled maintenance was behind the times, was behind schedule, and there was no way to predict this particular fire in advance. There's no evidence thus far of genuine malfeasance or negligence. Perhaps there will be in the aftermath, in the investigations which ensue. And then that should be called out and appropriately punished. But until then, these MAGA co-hosts are scrambling for something, anything, holding Democrats to a standard they would never dare impose on Republican elected officials. We'll continue.
Totally
And
understand
so
it.
we're just, it's like saying we're not going to have cops where we know there's going to be a crime.
Well, you don't know that there's going to be a crime. This fire was predicted 5 days out, not months out when it went offline.
We've been hearing
there
about
were
fires
a number
in California
of people
for years.
in positions of power, like the Orange County fire chief, the LA County fire chief, the head of FEMA, even Elon Musk, who went to a briefing and heard from a fire command, who have all said that this wasn't about a lack of preparedness, that this was because it was unprecedented. If you have 100 miles per hour winds, so much so that the choppers can't fly for 27 hours, which was a crucial element of this, that it was too windy to be able to do it, then you can't stand there and blame them like this. I mean, these quotes are crazy, saying, you know, firefighters have never seen these kinds of winds. The fires were, quote, unstoppable. Mother Nature owned us.
So again, this is so important. She's so good at what she does. I mean, with these relentless fact checks, bringing up the experts who are on the ground saying, listen, this wasn't a lack of preparedness. This was the fact that our preparedness had no way to deal with what Mother Nature was throwing at us. And I love the fact that she brought up Elon Musk, took that shot at him because, quite frankly, he deserves it. We did a video about this the other day where Elon Musk live streamed from his phone an attempt to get a gotcha, to own the libs, to own the Democrats, to show the woke DEI policies of Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass and these lesbian fire chiefs actually failed the American people and the Californian residents. And then the firefighter to whom he was speaking just fact-checked him in real time. I was like, actually, no, that's not the case. It was just we were actually trying to send more water than our system could manage, not that there was a lack of water. And then Elon Musk was like, okay. And then he awkwardly ended the stream. Good for her to make a point to call out the public humiliation that Elon Musk richly brought upon himself. Here's another clip.
Meltgate again, too.
There's nothing fake about the smelt.
Not according
I
to
actually
Gavin.
brought the lawsuit in last week. Maybe you already forgot, Jessica. And are you going to come on TV and say that California was well prepared and couldn't have done anything better? And this fire, no one could have put it out? Are you really going to tell people watching right now in California, the Democrats, the liberals, all the Hollywood stars that are livid at Bass and Newsom, that everything was perfect and they got this thing right? Jessica, this is such a disaster.
Will probably be recalled, but I am going to come on and read what the head of FEMA had to say, or the LA County fire chief.
Okay.
You know better than them?
I know better.
Meltgate again.
Yes, Jesse Waters genuinely believes he knows better than people who have infinitely greater experience and expertise in the area of firefighting. I'm glad Jesse Waters doesn't try to fight fire. He would die trying to fight fire. He should just stick to Fox News. He should just stick to pontificating instead of, playing armchair quarterback to experts, not even citing other experts. It's not like he's citing, disparate accounts from other firefighters, people who dispute what the, Southern California, what the LA Fire Department is putting out. It's just, it's his feeling. Like, listen, this is a really bad situation. Are you going to say that Democrats handled it perfectly? No, that's not what Jessica Tarlov is claiming. She's claiming that specific allegations of malfeasance or negligence have been debunked time and time again. She also conceded that Mayor Karen Bass might be recalled. I expect that that's very likely because she was technically out of the country when the fires began. Now, she quickly did an about-face and returned, but apparently during her campaign, she made a promise that she wouldn't conduct overseas trips. So she apparently violated that. And again, just the optics of it. There's no evidence that Karen Bass being there in person somehow impeded the firefighting effort. But when you're a public leader like that, particularly a mayor, a more local leader, it's really bad optics to be out of the country even for a fraction of a time during a disaster. So I expect she'll suffer political consequences for it. And to be clear, I have no particular empathy for Karen Bass. I don't even have particular empathy for Governor Newsom. But again, there's no evidence, particularly of the governor, of any sort of malfeasance or negligence, the likes of which that MAGA is claiming without evidence. So again, good on Jessica Tarlov for fact-checking these MAGA co-hosts on this, not trying to simp for elected officials who are Democrats, conceding that one of them will probably lose re-election. I will say, however, at a certain point, it might be this clip, she does make a point that the last time Republicans tried to recall Governor Newsom, he not only beat it, but he came back stronger than ever.
About that strings need to be attached to this. I have never heard from anybody who's advocating for strings to be attached to aid say this about any other natural disaster. And good on
DeSantis usually does a pretty good job.
Really? Okay. Well, things have happened other places. Like, let's talk about Louisiana. There's been $120 billion in aid spent on Louisiana in the last 2 decades. Have you ever said anything about Louisiana?
Louisiana doesn't have a history
Don't
of
try to justify
misusing
it.
funds to the level of Democrats in California.
So again, see what he did there. Number one, again, he can't point to any specific misuse of funds. Number one. Number two, he throws that caveat there in the end. He goes, okay, well, there's no evidence that Louisiana elected officials have misused funds to the level of Democrats in California. So you see how he's hedging there? Like the deceitful, mendacious punk that he is, because he knows he's effortlessly outclassed on the facts. And he's effortlessly outclassed on the morality of it, too. She's making the case, and she's probably playing with kid gloves here, and I understand professional courtesy. But she's right to point out that Jesse Waters, Dana Perino, I don't remember what term she served as press secretary under President Bush, but it may have been when Hurricane Katrina ravaged Louisiana. Did Democrats threaten to attach strings or conditions based on their support, or did they provide immediate disaster relief? See, here's the problem, before I play the rest of this clip. Some people will disingenuously take this argument and say, okay, so you're saying California and areas affected by natural disasters shouldn't do anything to adjust their procedure, to adjust their fail-safes. That is not what people are saying. It's entirely possible to say, hey, just listen. I'm going to role play right now an elected Republican. It's entirely possible to say, hey, listen, no, I don't support conditioning aid to California. I disagree with Governor Gavin Newsom on basically every policy. I don't like his politics. But at the end of the day, these aren't just liberal voters or conservative voters. More importantly, they're American citizens. They're the American people. So we're going to give the governor every damn thing he needs to address this disaster as quickly and empathetically as possible. Because they're the American people. And also, if the shoe were on the other foot, that's what I would expect from my Democratic colleagues. Then, in the aftermath, separately, we need to do a full-scale investigation into what was on, blah, blah, blah. You can do both of those things without coming off like a cruel jackass, the way that so many elected Republicans and, unfortunately, so many conservative Fox News hosts are doing now. If Jesse Waters said, hey, listen, no strings attached to the aid for California. Damn it, these are the American people. We care about them regardless of our political differences. Then when all is said and done, we really need to look into whether or not Karen Bass, Governor Newsom, Democratic leaders, any leaders anywhere could or should have done things differently so we can try to prevent this or ameliorate or reduce it in the future. But that's not what they're saying. They're explicitly saying put conditions, extract concessions before you give the aid. Pretty gross.
I think we should look under the hood of Louisiana for a second. Tom Tillis, to his credit,
they haven't wasted $24 billion on a train to nowhere.
Tom Tillis, North Carolina, said we need to treat everyone the same that we treated the people of Western North Carolina.
But
Rick
at some
Scott said
point,
that as
if
well.
you are delinquent and derelict in protecting
because you
people,
want to make a partisan point, and
no,
because
I don't want
Donald
to make
Trump
a partisan
hates
point.
Gavin, really?
Jessica, will you? I don't want to make a partisan point. I want
about.
She does. She really does want to make a partisan point. Yeah, again, because California is a liberal state. It's a blue state because it doesn't vote for Republicans. I don't think it did since President Reagan. And that pisses them off. They want to punish voters for defying the Republicans' political priorities, for not voting for Donald Trump, for not electing Republican senators. That is precisely what they're doing. Here's a continuation of that.
you can't do any forestry management, then damn, at some point, you got to pay for it, not the rest of us.
Okay, what about when the grid froze in Texas in 2021? Something that they've been warned about. All right, what? Governor Abbott, I didn't hear anything like Governor Abbott doesn't deserve any help. I mean, Ted Cruz went to Cancun, which is a whole other
How
story.
about all the money that the state taxpayers of Texas paid in order to protect the border, which was a federal government
$400 billion out from federal taxes out of California. They get nothing compared in return.
Let's get into the conversation. You can't do anything.
This is what I mean. She's just so good. Jessica Tarlov is so good because not only did she just brutally clobber Jeanine Pirro, Dana Perino felt the need to, with Texas pays federal taxes. Yeah, but California pays more. Texas is a very successful state, let's be very clear, but California's economy is substantially larger than Texas. California is the most economically successful state in this country, despite its problems. So I'm not sure you want to go down that road. And by the way, as a general proposition, blue cities and blue states tend to subsidize red states and red urban or rural areas. Sorry, the economy of this country. Now, you can say that that doesn't ascribe any sort of moral superiority, and I agree. But if we're talking about who contributes more fiscally, blue states and blue cities contribute a hell of a lot more than their red rural counterparts and their red state counterparts as a general proposition. So I'm not sure you want to go down that particular road, Dana. And again, note, when Jessica fired back off the level of taxes that California contributes to the federal government, and therefore red states as well, like Mississippi, like Louisiana, like Arkansas, like Alabama, like Kentucky, Dana Perino's like, because they're just outclassed. Tarlov is smarter. She has the facts on her side, and there's a reason they have to do a 4v1 situation. Last clip here.
You know, Jessica, Newsom is facing a recall, and California is not the way it used to be. We're going to see the trend change in California, such as we saw it in the last election, where it went up 6 points for Donald Trump. It went down 6 points for Kamala compared to Biden. What do you think that the chances are of a recall happening?
Well, they've already had a recall on Gavin Newsom, and he won by an even bigger margin.
Yeah, well, that was a long time ago before this disaster.
Wasn't that long ago. Listen, I understand we all have pipe dreams in life. Like, California is going to go red. It's not going to happen. Gavin Newsom will remain governor. And I actually haven't seen that much emphasis on a Newsom recall. I think Karen Bass.
So, again, and if I'm not mistaken, I probably should have trying to remember this in real time, but when Newsom was recalled, I think it was after, maybe. I thought it might have been after the 2018 recall election. Was it 2021? I guess it was 2021. So yeah, it was after the 2018 wildfires in California, which I think are now surpassed by this one, but are now, I think, the second worst, and certainly in California history, if not U.S. history. But he survived. So California is not going to go red. Now, might Trump make, or the Republicans make, additional gains in California? Sure, but California will remain a reliably blue state. So here's the reality. She's so good at what she does, and I don't envy her position. She has the toughest job in legacy media. She's outnumbered. They heckle, they cherry pick, stories, facts, figures, questions. She is in hostile terrain with respect to the viewers, and she more than adequately acquits herself. It's really impressive what she does, a Herculean effort, and shame on her MAGA co-hosts and really the MAGA movement in general in terms of not only spreading disinformation about the wildfires, but seeking to punish California residents, liberal and conservative voters, and their loved ones simply because they don't like their politics. We don't see this on the part of the Democrats, and the moral asymmetry is really staggering. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.